Keeps trying
But
to.
it sounds like a dog's wandering.
I think you all know who I am, but I'll say it anyway. Amanda Palmer, I'm the director-curator here at the Alice. Welcome. If you heard about this from a friend and you'd like to hear about our events through our email list, then you're welcome to put your email address downstairs at the sign-in book. I'm going to kind of break with my usual and tell you what our events are coming up. Usually do that at the end. I'll tell you now, and then, because I think we're going to fall into some major discussion afterward. I think it's going to be a fun evening. December 9th, which is also a Thursday, we have a book signing and lecture with Kristen Kimball, who wrote The Dirty Life. Great book if you haven't read it. She and her husband started the Essex Farm, and she talks about going from a New York City freelance writer to a farmer. It's really great. Should be a fun night. Then Friday, December 17th, we have Tim Hartnett and friends, and they're going to do some holiday favorites or maybe a holiday sing-along. He really has not given me much information, but it's going to be a fun night too. Ron Anstey got interested in astronomy as a child and then got his son into astronomy. Luckily for him, because as he got busier later in life, it kind of fell away, as most hobbies do. And then his son got him back into it, and we're very lucky for that because he's going to share his wonderful knowledge with us tonight. So, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming out and letting me share my hobby with you. It all started right here. It all started right here. I saved my money, and when I got $3.98, I sent away in a magazine, and I got my first telescope. And with this, I discovered the craters on the moon. I discovered the moons of Jupiter. Of course, they were discovered by others long before I did, but this is where it started. So you don't need a really big telescope to enjoy the hobby of astronomy. Binoculars are great. Your eye and a star chart is really all you need. So I would encourage any of you that have telescopes that are put away in the closet or down in the cellar, maybe just get them out and pick the right target. Pick the moon. If you go look for deep sky objects like I'm going to show you tonight, you're going to be very disappointed. Even in our telescopes, they don't show up very well. It's only the pictures that really help out. So, you've got the moons of Jupiter, you've got the moon to look at. There's several other nebula that I'll show you tonight that you actually could look at, even the smallest telescopes that you bought at Walmart or anywhere else. I'd like to actually accomplish about 3 things tonight. One is tell you a little bit about the Vermont Astronomical Society, which I'm a member. Kind of showcase some of their images that some of the members do, and we do this in our backyards with our own equipment, and we can actually, make these images, capture these images from the sky. And 3, I'd kind of like to give you a sense of how large the universe really is. As I said, I'm a member of the Vermont Astronomical Society. We hold regular meetings on the first non-holiday Monday of each month at the Brownell Library at the Essex Junction 5 Corners, 7:30. Public is welcome. We have a website, vtastro.org, and on there is a calendar, and it tells you what the next topic is going to be for the next month. Also, anytime we have an activity going on, like a star party, where we go out and all the members that can get together bring their telescopes, and we might go to a school or a library or something like that, and people can come out and look through our telescopes. Winter's coming on, and we don't do it so much in the wintertime anymore. And the members listed there are the ones who allowed me to use their images, and yes, Charles is my son, and he got me back into this again. We can start off with something as simple as a digital camera and a tripod. And we use it to take images. Now, it's good if you can have a setting that allows you to go at a distance, like the little mountains that might be on a dial that you can select and say, focus far, far away, because the things you're looking at are far, far away. The other is if you could set the shutter speed, is kind of important, but a lot of times the cameras will compensate for it and will keep the shutter open as long as it needs to expose it correctly. The beauty about digital cameras is you can look at it, nope, it's not quite right, and you can try again. If you have a digital camera, you can take maybe something like this. This is the big difference. See right here?
Very visible tonight.
And be very visible tonight.
Yeah.
This is taken with about a 2 to 3 second exposure on a digital camera on a tripod. And like I say, if 3 seconds doesn't work for yours, you can try 4 or 5, or a little bit longer. The maximum you can probably go is about 15 seconds on a tripod and camera. The others in our area, we're treated to the aurora borealis a lot. Not so much lately because the sunspots have been very low, and the lower the number of sunspots, there isn't so much aurora activity. But it is on the increase, and so in the next couple of years, or through the next few years, we should see an increase. This was taken about year 2000, I believe, in my backyard. You're welcome, so I can take pictures of comets. In November 2007, this comet was readily visible in the northern sky. This was taken with a 80 millimeter telephoto lens on a 35 millimeter camera, which would probably be comparable to like something like a 3 to 5x zoom on a smaller digital camera. This is another in February 2009. Now, comets are actually a fairly common occurrence. The only trouble is you usually need a good star chart and a telescope to see them. They go by totally unannounced because it's the only way that you can really see them. So every once in a while, there's a good one out there that you can see. How many remember this one? 1996. Anybody see that? Hayakake. 1996 went by. It was a beautiful comet, very readily visible in the night sky. It just was gorgeous. Then in the following year, we had that one. Now, I didn't have a very good digital camera at the time, and so I took my 35 millimeter camera and 135 millimeter lens and bought a 36 roll exposure film and put it in my camera and just took all the pictures I could take. I tried 10 seconds, I tried 1 second, I tried 2 seconds, and then of course I had to send it away in 2 weeks. By the time I got my prints back, the comet was out of the sky, and I was just hoping and praying I got a decent image, and I was lucky. So, digital cameras really make this a lot easier. Now, comets don't go streaking across the sky like they look like they're doing. It's more like this. One of our members went out and shot a comet. About every 5 minutes, and put them and strung them together in a little video. And that's what a comet looks like when it's going across the sky. Now notice the stars aren't moving, but the comet moves in the background. Because it's a lot closer to us than the stars. That's what it looks like.
So that's about 20 minutes?
That's about 20 to 30 minutes, taking about every 5 or 6, a bunch of shots, and then they just strung them together.
Could you describe why the tail is the way it is?
Well, as you notice, the tail isn't going in the direction that the comet is moving.
No.
And that's because the tail is made by the solar winds. So if you have the sun out here, the tail will be away from the sun. So when it's coming towards the sun, the tail's out this way. As it goes around the sun, the tail comes like this. And then it goes, and then when it's going away from the sun, the tail's actually pointing in the direction it's going. Well, remember I told you that if you leave your camera exposed too long, you're going to get really long star trails. But this is exactly what the person wanted to do. This was intended to make a nice star trail picture. Now, the star trails are not because the stars are moving across the sky, it's because we're rotating. And actually, I'd say, hang on to your chairs because you're really moving right now at 850 miles an hour. We're traveling at 850 miles an hour around the world right now. But of course, that's not all, because the Earth is going around the sun. And we're going around the sun at 66,000 miles an hour. But of course, that's not all either, because the sun's going around the Milky Way galaxy. And we're going around the Milky Way galaxy at 500,000 miles an hour. But of course, the Milky Way galaxy is moving. And it's traveling at 1.4 million miles an hour towards the constellation Hydra. Did you have a question? Yeah. So we're moving really fast. In fact, when I'm giving this talk of one other small group of children, a little student right there said, "Yeah, but we've got gravity holding us in our chair." And I go, that kid's got a good future ahead of him. This is another shot of star trails, but this is pointing directly at Polaris, the North Star. And of course the stars go around Polaris, just like we rotate around our axis. And this little streak down through here, it's probably an airplane that went flying through the picture.
Or missile.
Or one of those California missiles. Well, we stick video cameras on telescopes. This is a huge homemade mount for stability. It's got all the motors and everything, so it's tracking. But you can stick a regular digital camera on a telescope, or they make specialized cameras that we use, a lot smaller. And when you do that, you use that primarily to image the planets or the moon. Because when you look through our atmosphere, it looks something like that. It is wiggly, and that's because the upper atmosphere is like looking through water. And if you go to the beach in summertime and you look at rocks, they seem to be jumping around. Well, that's exactly what's happening here. Our atmosphere is very unstable. It has ripples in it, and it makes it very difficult to get a decent picture if you're trying to shoot any kind of a 1 second or 2 second exposure. It's just going to be all blurry. So we take a video camera and we shoot maybe a half a minute to 2 minutes, feed everything into the computer, break it down into individual frames, and then sort them, let the software sort the best ones, keep the best ones, and then stack them all on top of each other. And then we're going to end up with a final picture that looks like that. Now the moon is an absolutely fascinating object. I would recommend that if you have any kind of a telescope, just go look at the moon. It changes every hour. The shadows lengthen, new craters pop up, you see new mountaintops. And the geology of the moon is absolutely fascinating. There's a book called The Modern Moon by Charles Wood, which describes all the geological features. And also, he's created a card with the 100 most interesting ones. And so you could take your telescope and try to find all of them. I'm trying to image all of them. I haven't gotten very far, but I'm still working on it. Like right here, this crater is completely filled with lava. Whereas this one has a whole bunch of impacts in it, which kind of implies that it's an older crater, like about 4 billion years old. because it's had a lot of impacts. There's just a nice shot of the moon, and that you can do with a digital camera on the tripod, because the moon is so bright that you can make a pretty decent picture just with the moon. And that'd probably take a pretty good zoom lens, maybe a 10x or 15x zoom would get you something like that. Just want you to notice that little crater up there, and that one right down there. That's Plato, and that's Palladius, and we're going to come right back to those. Here's a close-up of Palladius. It has a very interesting series of craters. This one's about 4.5 miles across, right here. When we go out at night, we look, if this crater is visible, if it's the right phase of the moon, we put our telescopes on that and we try to see if we can see this little crater. If we can see it with our eyepieces and telescope, it means it's a pretty steady night. And also, it means the telescope's pretty good. You can see that little tiny crater. A lot of times you can only see these, the others are they just disappear. Again, this has got a lot of impacts in it. This is an old crater, probably again in the range of 4 billion years old. This is Plato, the other one I pointed out. After the impact happened here, it got completely filled with lava, and that's because there's no central little mountain peak. Most craters, when there's an impact, there's an upthrust and there's a mountain peak in the center. That one got completely covered up. And you can tell by the fact that there's very few impacts in there. There's a little one there. That's also another test for our telescopes. You can actually see them. And this is probably 3.5 billion years old. I mean, it's a young crater, but still pretty old. Here's another interesting area of the moon. This one again was completely filled with lava. You can just see a little filled-in crater there. And these little black spots right here are volcanic ash, because with a really good telescope, you can actually see a little volcanic dome. This other one over here, which is right here, I blew up a picture over here, and it has this very interesting little line of craters through here. And I counted about 22 different craters there. And it's kind of, one theory proposed why that is that way is it's called the Shoemaker-Levy event. If anybody remembers in 1992, Dr. Shoemaker and Dr. Levy discovered a comet that was coming towards Jupiter. And it broke into a number of pieces. And they all went slamming into Jupiter, and actually they could see all the disturbance into the surface gases and dust of Jupiter. Not Venus, Jupiter, sorry. So that's what's theorized to have happened here, that a comet or maybe an asteroid came by between the Earth and the moon, broke into pieces, and went slamming into there as the moon turned. It left this little ring of craters. Just maybe yes, maybe no. But it's an interesting feature that actually can be seen with our telescopes. Now, before I move away from the Earth and the moon system, and we start to go out a little further into space, I need to talk a little bit about distances and how they're measured. I'm getting a little dry. Scientists measure distance in space by light years. Now, light travels at 186,000 miles a second. That's 7 times around the world in 1 second. That translates into 11 million miles a minute, 670 million miles in an hour, or 6 trillion miles in a year. It's a big long distance. 6 trillion miles in 1 year. So when they say something is 1 million light years away, you take 1 million, you multiply it by 6 trillion, and so on. We actually image, and we use that video cameras to image of the various planets. Mercury is not a very good target for us, other than to make sort of more artistic images. With the moon and the Earth shine, the sun shines on the Earth and back up on the moon, so we actually see this. And there's Mercury right down there. It's not a very large planet, so that we can't see very much of it. This is just a star up here, possibly Arcturus, I'm not sure. I didn't ask the... But Venus little more interesting target in that it goes through phases just like our moon does, because it's on the inside, and when it's behind the sun, we see the full face, but as it comes around this way in relation to us over here, we start to see crescents, and then when it moves towards the front of the sun, we don't see it at all. So it goes through phases just like our moon. It's 67 million miles away from the sun. And there's Mars. There's the ice caps. There. Jupiter. 88,000 miles away. There's the great red spot. Interesting thing is this band right here has disappeared. When you look at Jupiter right now, you don't see this red band down there. It's sort of white and just sort of disappeared. Nobody's quite sure why. This was taken several years ago. This is another interesting one I was talking about with your small telescopes. You can actually see Jupiter and you can see the moons. And the moons change. Again, they change by the hour because they're rotating around Jupiter. They change from night to night. And every once in a while, depending on the telescope you have, you can actually see one go right across the front. It makes a little black dot going right across the front of the surface. Callisto actually happened to be way out here. I couldn't get it in the frame of that particular picture. We have Saturn. Now we're out 880 million miles from the sun. Just about a year or so ago, Saturn rings were on edge because every 15 years, based on where we are rotating around the sun and the rings, which have an angle to them, we line up to the point where they look like they're right on edge to us. We can't see them. In fact, they actually disappear. They're so thin that even with telescopes, we can't see the rings. But of course, that's a great time to be looking for the moons of Saturn, because the rings put out so much light in that area that they wash out any chance of seeing the moons until it goes on edge about every 15 years. And when we reach out a little further, 1.7 billion miles away, about all we can try to do is locate the moons of Uranus. And then there's Neptune. We have to capture one of the moons in this particular image. And then we go out to Pluto. And I can hear you saying, yeah, right, you tell me anything's Pluto out there. Well, we have good star charts. We have very good star charts. But to make sure that we saw Pluto, one of our members went out and took pictures over several weeks. In fact, we actually more than every night that they go. Stop that. And they took images of that same area of the sky. Cooperate. Now we're going to watch a comet again. There we go. Thank you. You notice the stars don't change position, but that little dot just zooms through. And that's taken over several weeks of the same area of the sky. And remember, planet is Greek for wandering star, so the planets wander within the background stars, and so we know that happened to be the planet Pluto. Now, there's been a lot of talk about well, whether Pluto's really a planet or whether it's a minor planet, or, well, that's not a discussion for this, but that's probably kind of why, because it's pretty small in relation to the other. And also there are other objects out there that have similar size to Pluto, which are not called planets. So, well, if we put the sun in the picture, it's like this.
Oh my.
So, somewhere on there there's a legend. And there's a legend that says 1 inch equals 10 miles, 1 inch equals 50 miles, or whatever you're using. Well, let's talk about a map of the solar system. But the scale we're going to use is 1 inch equals 3.5 million miles. Now, 3.5 million miles is a pretty long distance. That's 6 times to the moon and back. So that's quite a good distance. And on that scale, the sun would be about this big. So we got a pretty small scale. When I do this, I span about 6 feet. And if the sun were at the end of my fingertips, Mercury would be right at my wrist. Venus would be at my elbow. The Earth would be just about before my shoulder, and Mars would be at the tip of my nose.
Where would your anus be in the same spot?
Shame on you.
Just a little humor.
Shame on you. This is being recorded.
I said it over here.
Stop coughing.
All right. Now we have the first 4 rocky planets in this distance. If I go this way, and if I had somebody else come up here and stand next to me and run up their arm, at the end of their fingertips would be Jupiter. If I had a third person come out here and we stood like this, just beyond their fingertips would be Saturn. Now, if we wanted to go to Uranus, we need 4 more people. A total of 7 people standing here like this with their arms outstretched. If we want to go to Neptune, I'd have to have 3 more. So we got 10 people. 60 feet. But we're still in the solar system. And we're outside this room now, but we haven't gone very far. So if we want to go to Pluto, we need 4 more. So 14 people standing fingertip to fingertip, about 85 feet. Our entire solar system would fit into that. Well, let's say we wanted to go to the nearest star to our sun. Well, we wouldn't want to do it this way. You're going to have to get in your car, go out to 87, head towards Plattsburgh, go through Plattsburgh, go up the E-Town Hill, down the E-Town Hill, and when you got to Lake George, that would be where the nearest star is. Space is awful big. And we haven't even left Milky Way yet. And that's the nearest star, about 4.2 light years away. One of the other things that we can do is we can look at the sun. I don't always like to be up late at night, so I like to look at the sun. This is a very special telescope with a very red filter in it. This is the little video camera on the back there. And the little tent, it's got my computer in it so I can actually see the screen in the daytime. And we can take pictures of the sun. There's very little sunspot activity. There's actually one up here, and there's one over here. But we have sometimes very nice prominences that come out. We can look at those, take pictures of those. Now this next picture I really would like to take credit for, but I can't. And none of our members took it either. I've been waiting for it to happen over my house, but it hasn't. This is the shuttle in the International Space Station passing in front of the sun. This is a gentleman, Mr. Leggett in Florida, took this picture. It's been on the internet, maybe some people have seen it, but there it is. I'm just waiting for this to come over my house. We have websites that predict this, and there's been 2 that have predicted that in 9 days it was actually going to go right over the top of my house, and so I was waiting with bated breath for this to happen, but the orbits change so much, the shuttle's orbit changes so much, that by the time that it was going to happen, it was so far away I couldn't even take a chance of getting to it. Because it's only about a 4-mile window is all you have. It's got to go right over your house within about a 4-mile window for you to be able to get this. But maybe someday. Well, our sun is not really typically a big star, just sort of an average everyday star. There are others out there that are pretty big. Now, this is Arcturus, and in in the summertime, if you look and find the Big Dipper, and you follow the arc of the handle, the expression is follow the arc to Arcturus. If you follow that arc, you'll come to a very bright, orangey star, the brightest in the western sky, and that is Arcturus. So follow the arc of the handle. See, right now, it's down low, so it's below the horizon. But in the summertime, it's up nice in the west. Well, Arcturus isn't terribly large either. There's Arcturus right there. And this is Betelgeuse in the constellation Orion. And that's not the largest star either. There's another one, VY Canis Majoris, which is actually 2.5 times the size of Antares. And there are probably others that are even larger, but you know, I just don't know about them. We put digital cameras on telescopes. And as someone was asking me before, sometimes we mount them right on top of the telescope so that we can have the advantage of the tracking, because I said you can only expose for about 15 seconds, and then you start getting, you know, star trails in your images, and that's not what you want. So sometimes you mount the camera right on top, and when you mount it right on top, you can get a nice picture of the Milky Way like this. This was taken down in Springfield, Vermont, at a convention of amateur telescope makers called Stellafane in the summertime. Notice the light pollution coming from Springfield behind there. And Springfield's not a very large city. When you put the camera back to the eyepiece, you can get a kind of a wide field picture of the constellation Orion. Here's the belt stars, the sword. There's Betelgeuse up there, that big orangey star. Now, scientists catalog, label, number everything. And one of the famous lists is attributed to Charles Messier. He lived from 1730 to 1817. And he was an avid astronomer at the time. Probably didn't have a telescope any better than the one I had down here. But he was a comet hunter. And he would go out there and he would see little fuzzy things like this. And in his telescope, he thought that was a comet, because that's what they look like. But, as I said before, comets move. So he'd go out the next night and it'd still be there. Well, maybe it's coming straight at him. So he'd go out next night, he'd look again, and whenever he could get out again on a clear night, he'd look again and see that it stayed in one place. So he knew it wasn't a comet. So that he or others wouldn't make that same mistake, he started creating this list called Messier objects. He found 110 objects that are attributed to him, and he created this list. And now it's a very famous list. It's a target for all of us with our telescopes to go out and find the 110 Messier objects. So you'll see a lot of them labeled with M1, M2, M3, or 42. And this one right down here, the Orion Nebula, is M42. If we use a camera that's very sensitive to red, this is what the same area looks like. There's the belt right there in the sword area. This is Barnard's Loop. And this has an NBC number which escapes me right now. But those are the same area of the sky with a very red sensitive camera. If we go back and get a little closer, you can see that M42 is coming up pretty good, but we start to see other things start to crop up. And there's more things right here. And if we get in really close to M42, it looks like that. This is a very hot star-forming region. New stars are being formed in this area right through here. And then if we go look at that other area, this is one of the belt stars. This is called the Flame Nebula. And then down here is the Horsehead, which somebody asked me about a little earlier. That is the Horsehead Nebula. That is probably the least observed and most photographed part of the northern sky. I was out one night with somebody had a 16-inch telescope. It means a mirror is 16 inches in diameter. And they were pointing right at it. I could not see it. Others said they could make it out as a little fuzzy jelly bean, but my eyes, I couldn't see it. But take a telescope and camera, and you've got something like I related to someone, this is, the reason it looks like a horse head is there's a star that's going right up through this neck, and in about 50,000 years, it's going to cut the head right off. And so, if you get a chance, get out and look at it now. It's going to be going away pretty soon. This is a wider field view of the same thing. Like I said, it's the most photographed object in the northern sky. That's one of the objects that really got me into astroimaging. I wanted to have a picture of that. I wanted a picture that I took myself. That's one of them. There are double clusters. These are star clusters in the sky. This is right up in the northern part of the sky, just below Cassiopeia and just ahead of Perseus. And Hipparchus actually cataloged that in 130 BC. Of course, he had an advantage. He had a little darker skies than we have today. But if you get away from city lights, you can actually see that little double fuzzy spot up in the sky. It is actually visible, even today. Here's another little cluster of stars. This is a great target when we go out with the children in schools. This is E.T. Two bright eyes, little arms going up there. E.T. They really like that object. Like I said, they catalog everything. NGC, New General Catalog, 457. Then we have globular star clusters. There are hundreds of thousands of stars in that group. And if I remember, I said the nearest star to our sun was 4.2 light years away. Those stars are really millions and millions and billions of miles away from each other, trillions of miles away from each other, but they all look like they're glommed together. They're the oldest stars in our Milky Way galaxy, 14 billion years old. Scientists have no theory as to why they got together like that. Have no idea why they seem to be on just the outside of our Milky Way galaxy. You only see them on the outside. You don't see them in. Another puzzle for them to solve. 25,000 light years away, this particular one. Again, a Charles Messier object. We have a Rosette Nebula. Here we have North America. Like I said, don't name anything. Give it a name. There's a very, I should say, energetic star right behind this dust cloud right here. It's actually putting out enough energy that it ionizes all the hydrogen in this area of the sky and makes it look like that. This is Veil Nebula. It's a supernova remnant. It's 100 light years across. And again, all these pictures were taken by our club members with their equipment in their backyards. And then we have one person who just likes to shoot big parts of the sky and stitch them all together. And this is, in the summertime, constellation Cygnus right through here, called the Northern Cross, directly overhead in the summertime. There's your North American Nebula up here. And there's the Veil Nebula down there. There's a lot of other interesting targets in through here. And this is right into our Milky Way. When you look at, in the summer sky, you look down towards a constellation called Sagittarius, you're actually looking right into the core of our Milky Way galaxy. That would be back down here in this image. Another supernova remnant, M1, Charles Messier object. It was actually recorded by the Chinese in the year 1054 BC. They saw the flash in the sky of that star exploding. It put out so much light that they would actually cast a shadow at night, like the moon does. Lasted a few weeks, and then this is the way we see it today. It's 6,500 light years away. So 6,500 years, the light we see, that's how it looked 6,500 years ago. Helix Nebula. Somebody's labeled it the eye of God. Looks a little angry to me. But, and we have the Dumbbell Nebula, Charles Messier object again. You can't see color in the telescopes, even the bigger ones that we may have in our backyards. 15-inch, 20-inch telescope, you can't see color because there's not enough energy to actually activate the cones in your eyes. You just see them as like small little fuzzy cotton balls in the sky. That's actually what it looks like through a telescope, even the larger ones that some of the amateurs have. You need a camera and a lot of time and patience to get there. Just in time for Halloween, we have the Witchhead Nebula. Yeah, it sort of looks like a witch. No. Now, we haven't left our Milky Way galaxy yet. Everything that we've seen so far is in our Milky Way. In fact, when you go out tonight and you look up in the sky, every star you see is in the Milky Way galaxy. You do not see stars from other galaxies. Every single star you see is in the Milky Way galaxy. This is a picture of a deep sky imager when we want to reach out. This is just one example. There are a number of others that our members have, different configurations. It consists of a very solid mount, or pier. A very accurately tracking mount right here. Typically a specialized camera that you can cool down to minus 15 degrees C. And you shoot in, without going into a lot of detail, you shoot in just white light and then you use filters to get the red, the green, and the blue. And you'll take exposures of maybe 5, 10, or 15 minutes, depending on the target that you're after. And you use that tracking mount to follow the object. And in fact, that particular camera has 2 cameras inside. And one of them you lock up on a star. And every time that star tries to move out of the center of that field, it sends a signal to the telescope to correct for it, so that you stay right on target. And you'll track all night. And you collect as many of those groups of 10 or 15 minute images as you can. And maybe 20 or 30 in white light, 10 or 15 in red, green, and blue. And then you go back in. And I think it was Ansel Adams that said it's 5 minutes behind the shutter and 95% of the time in a dark room. Well, with us it's probably 40% of our time is in the telescope and 60% is on the computer, putting everything back together. Every image has to be processed separately. Every image has to be then stacked on top of each other, and all the colors processed separately. So you might collect two nights worth of data and then spend the rest of the week trying to get an image. When you do, you can reach out, get a galaxy out there. This is the Andromeda Galaxy. Another Charles Messier object. Now this is 14 quintillion, 696 quadrillion, 563 trillion, 432 billion, 959 million miles away. This is the closest large galaxy to our Milky Way. That's the closest one.
Excuse me.
There's another little galaxy down here, and there's another one right there. Another interesting thing about the Andromeda Galaxy is actually it's headed towards us, or we're headed towards it. And probably in about 500 million years, they're going to come together. But they're not going to collide, they're going to pass through each other. Because remember how far the stars are apart? They're not going to hit, they're just going to go right straight through each other. Kind of interesting to be around for that. Gravity, of course, will take over and make all kinds of funny shapes, I'm sure. But who knows, we might end up looking something like this. This is actually a picture of the Whirlpool Galaxy. That galaxy on the side, according to computer simulation, came from behind, passed through M51, went out the other side, gravity took over, pulled it back in, and it came back out the other side and is now sitting just slightly behind. So that's what they think has happened to that. The distance from there is 37 million light years away. Man, recognized as Homo sapiens, has only been on this Earth for 200,000 years. The light that we see today left that galaxy 37 million years ago. There's another Charles Messier object again. 37 million light years, called Sunflower. Yeah, kind of looks like a sunflower. This is the pinwheel, M33. This is another little hot star-forming area, something very much like the M42 Nebula. That's 1,500 light years across. Now we've moved out beyond the Milky Way. We have a nice little NGC edge-on galaxy. When I showed out the lead into this, one of our members saw that there was a comet was going to pass right in front of that galaxy, because there's the galaxy right there in the background. Now that galaxy is millions of light years away, and this is in our solar system. And the two of them just happen to pass in front of each other. We got up at 3 a.m. in the morning, took that picture. Actually took a lot of pictures to get that. And then went to work the next morning. Put a comment in an email to us saying, we have a very interesting hobby. Causes us to do all kinds of things. Another galaxy out there. You get the idea, there are a lot of galaxies out there. Here's another, NGC 7331. Notice all the other galaxies in the background. They're about the same size, which means they're probably 10 times further away. So this one's estimated to be 40 million light years. These are 400 million light years away. This one makes a nice pretty picture. 38 million light years away, another galaxy. Comes in all kinds of shapes and sizes. Here's one called a whale. Looks like a whale, a little fin there, spout there. These actually have had a close encounter, and there is stars and material going between the two of them. So there's another couple galaxies that have a close encounter. This is pinwheel. This is something like what our Milky Way is theorized to look like, and we're about 2/3 of the way from the center in one of the arms. So, you know, we might be out in here, one of the arms. So when we look one way in the Milky Way galaxy, we're looking through the arms, and we look another way, we're actually looking into the core. As I said, when you look towards Sagittarius in the summertime, you're looking right through to the core. In the wintertime, when you see the Milky Way, you're looking out through one of the other arms. This is another edge-on galaxy, called the Needle. And then we've got Sombrero. Yeah, maybe. Never really looked like a sombrero to me, but that's what we got. Here's one at 105 million light years away. I labeled it Superman because it looks like the S on Superman's chest. They're classified as a large spiral. And here we have a chain of galaxies. And as you can see, there are lots and lots of galaxies. They range anywhere from, I think it's 60 million to 100 million light years away from us. So again, the light from those galaxies left over 100 million light years, 100 million years ago. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to show you a little video, which will probably bring this point home. Some of you may have already seen it. It's been on the internet for a while. Oh, wrong button. Try that again.
Astronomers in 1996 attempted to do something extraordinary. They pointed the Hubble Space Telescope into a part of the sky that seemed utterly empty, a patch devoid of any planets, stars, and galaxies. This area was close to the Big Dipper, a very familiar constellation, and the patch of sky was no bigger than a grain of sand held out at arm's length. This was a somewhat risky move by the scientists. After all, observing time on this telescope is in very high demand, and some questioned whether it would be wasted trying to look at nothing. There was a real risk that the images returned would be as black as the space at which it was being pointed. Nevertheless, they opened the telescope and slowly, over the course of 10 full days, photons that had been traveling for over 13 billion years finally ended their journey on the detector of humanity's most powerful telescope. Their feeble signals collected almost one by one. When the telescope was finally closed and the images were processed, the light from over 3,000 galaxies had covered the detector, producing one of the most profound and humbling images in all of human history. Every single spot, smear, and dot was an entire galaxy, and each one containing hundreds of billions of stars. Later, in 2004, they did it again, this time pointing the telescope towards an area near the constellation Orion. They opened the shutter for over 11 days and 400 complete orbits around the Earth. Using detectors with increased sensitivity and filters that allowed more light through than ever before, over 10,000 galaxies appeared in what became known as the Ultra Deep Field, an image that represented the farthest we've ever seen into the universe. The photons from these galaxies left when the universe was only 500 million years old, and 13 billion years later, they end their long journey as a small blip on a telescope CCD.
So, we pointed the most powerful telescope made by human beings at absolutely nothing. And found out what a really tiny, tiny place we occupy in this universe of ours. Oh, I got that's my other things on it, but that's pretty much the presentation I have for tonight. Now, we have technical difficulties, and I could not get my computer to talk to the internet here. But I have brought up a website that I use in the wintertime, where you can actually go out and log on to their website and look through a telescope that's actually taking live images. In fact, at 8:10 this evening, I had set up a mission to look at M33. And it's something you can do from your home computer, and the internet. They have a free membership that allows you to look at what they're looking at, and they also have a subscription that then allows you to make reservations and tell it to point at what you want to look at. It's called sleuths.com. I have no financial interest in it. Our club has no financial interest in it. It's just a site that when it's 10 or 20 degrees out, or 10 or 20 below out, and I don't want to go outdoors,
These galaxies, while standing absolutely still,
What's the website, Ron?
slooh.com. I have a list of websites, and this is on one of them. Like it has our website and a couple of others that I use. You can, take one of these if you'd like. Just leave them up here and take them, or you can pass them out if you want to. I don't know if I can run that back or not.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. From the current slide. There. That's the sleuths.com. They have telescopes in the Canary Islands, in Chile, or in Australia. So that any time, day or night, whether it's cloudy here or not, and you want to go out and look at a telescope, you can, hopefully the skies will be clear there. And this is actually a picture of called the Silver Coin Galaxy that I captured off sleuths.com. Okay. Okay, it's still on. All we can do is show you here. This is the website. Well, I think it's really hard to see, but we'll go right to the telescope. This is their their interface. We go. This is actually looking at the telescope right now. Oh, they're going to go look at Orion Nebula next. Now let's see. No, I'm going to back out of the way. That actually doesn't usually end up being a very. Let's see. That doesn't usually end up being a very good target. Let's see if we can connect to this one. And they're looking at the Rosette Nebula. Well, I'll just get out of the way. I want to take a look at that. This picture is actually live. They're got their cameras open. And, one of them is a 0.5 meter telescope. And as the images come in, they sort of like develop over 5 or 10 minutes, depending on how long they're going to expose. And this one is going to be, it's a 10-minute exposure of the Rosette Nebula, one the big red thing that I showed you back there. It's counting down to the 10 minutes. And I wasn't sure when this was going to end, but I set mine up to go off at 8:10. Sometimes I run, so while that's going and while that's developing, does anybody have any questions? I think that I might be able to answer.
Yeah, you said earlier that every star in the heaven that we can see is in our galaxy.
Yes.
I understood that there was one star in the sword of whoever it is,
Orion?
Orion, that actually was a galaxy outside of our galaxy. The only star that we can see with the naked eye that is not in our galaxy.
Well, that wouldn't be a star, it'd be the galaxy, but I don't think it's in Orion, but in Andromeda. You can see the M31, the Andromeda Galaxy. You can see that if you know where it is in the sky. That's right by Pegasus.
I've seen it.
Pardon?
I've seen it.
Yeah. You can see it again with the dark sky. It's a little fuzzy spot. But that's not a star. It's
That's
a
a
galaxy.
galaxy.
But you can see that with your eye. You're right.
Yeah.
And now, so if anybody says, well, how far can I see? My eyes aren't bad. I can see 2.2 million light years. Or 14 quadrillion miles. So that's how good your eyes are. You actually can see that.
Why are sunspots so inactive right now? Is there a
That's a good question. And I
You don't know the
don't know. They go in cycles.
Okay.
They do go in cycles. There's an 11-year cycle and there's a 22-year cycle, and right now we happen to be in a minimum.
And a minimum is like 1 or 2 that you showed?
Well, I think I only had 1 or 2 on that one, but I think right now there may be like 20 to 30.
So when it's a really good sunspot season, there are
Lots more.
lots.
50 more. 50, 100.
Okay.
Is there a moderate minimum?
Modern minimum, of course, is where we had the Ice Age,
Okay,
right?
that's right.
That went for about 50 years, where basically there was like no sunspots at all. We could see very, very few. That's yeah. And so that's why they say, well, depending on the sunspot cycle, whether we're going to heat up or cool down, well, that's why, but that's a topic for something else. Yes?
Also, I have read that I think it's in the Crab Nebula, there is an area that there are just absolutely no stars. Now, was that the one the Hubble was looking at that?
Well, again, to our eye, there's a lot of dark spots up there that we don't see stars in, but even when you point telescopes at them. But according to they looked in a place near the Big Dipper,
Yeah,
and they looked at a place near the Orion Nebula. And there has to be some certain criteria for it because they don't want the Earth to block it, so they have to shoot at something that when it goes around the Earth, it can continually point at, and the Earth doesn't pass in front of it. So they picked those two particular spots. Could you imagine a guy trying to convince them to take 10 days of the Hubble telescope time in 1996? Oh, we want to just look at nothing. And then when he got the picture, he said, yes. Imagine the feeling that that group of scientists must have felt that they were vindicated by their curiosity.
but those were the farthest objects
Yeah.
that we've ever seen. Huh?
Right. That's the furthest that we've been able to see. Now, there's a new telescope coming, James Webb, about year 2014. It's going to be launched, an improvement on the Hubble, and they're hoping to be able to see further. Yes, sir.
How are the age of the craters on the moon estimated? You had some at 3.5 billion years and others at 4 billion. What's the distinction?
Well, the 3.5 billion is pretty young for craters are concerned, according to scientists. I'm not sure exactly how they date them. I'm not sure. I haven't read far enough in that book yet. I don't really have a good answer. Anybody else have an answer, maybe? Because again, I've made presentations this or similar to this to students, and I was at a first grade class, and I was showing them, and I'd been gone just for pretty pictures. And one of the little kids raised his hand and said, "How come the stars are different colors?" The little boy next to him said, "Because they're different temperatures." This is first grade. I go, the kids are doing fine. How are we going on our image?
I get about janitors, what we want.
Well, it's starting to develop. It's got a minute left to go.
If you touch the trackpad, it won't fall asleep.
Oh. There, get back. So that's the type of image you can actually get from this site. This is what you're looking at. And as I said, I sent them a subscription fee of $50 a year to let me tell them what I want to look at. And I set one up for tonight, but, it's just something that's out there on the internet. Now you can, go ahead.
Ron, how many days per month is there decent viewing?
It's about 60 days a year in our area right here. And I guarantee you, at least half of them got a big moon in it. Which kind of washes out a lot of the faint stuff that we see. And many times it's right where we want to look, so you can't. But yeah, there's only about 60 days. That's the estimate from our club, says about 60 days a year.
How many of those are 20 below zero?
Most of them. Yeah, it seems like every one of them, you're right. Yeah. Yes, sir.
With the privatization of space, such as Bhutan being able to get out of our atmosphere, are you guys planning on putting a telescope up there pretty soon?
I think I'll leave that to people who got a little bit more money. No, we're certainly not. We just like to get together and share our common interests. Mm-hmm. We have an observatory in Heinsberg, Vermont, and we have an 18-inch obsession and a couple of other telescopes there. It's the Heinsberg landfill. They capped it off, had no more use for the land, so we said, could we put up a... So we're on the Heinsberg landfill, making good use of the property. Yes, sir.
Can amateur astronomers still play a role today in research in the universe?
Absolutely. In fact, we have a couple of members that are on active programs. One of them is a Nova hunter, and he goes out to the observatory and pretty much uses binoculars to scan a certain part of the sky for supernova. And he has one to his credit. He has found one.
No, supernova is the slower. Okay.
And we have another member that is active in asteroid hunting. And so the amateur today who wants to get really serious can make contributions to actually scientific pursuits. In fact, they go out sometimes and recruit people to join in on their various hunts. Then there's a lot of casual people like yourself who like to just go out and try to take a pretty picture now and again. Yeah.
I hate to sound very nitpicky, but just in looking at your,
Oops.
well, I'm afraid it's a website. I think it's a typo for your, because it says VTAS, I think it's supposed to be TRO.
Yes.
Okay, it says RTO, so people just.
Fingers.
I just wanted to know.
If you, yeah, it's VT Astro.
Astro, okay.
If you go VAS Vermont or Vermont Astronomy, you'll find us. And I'll correct that. Thank you.
Oh, just, yeah, to save people some time. The other thing I wanted to say, have you been involved in Twin Valleys when David Levy's been here?
I have not personally.
Okay. He's been here a number of times, apparently as a kid in the 60s.
Yes.
He came up here and went to camp, which is near Lewis.
He actually has like an astronomy camp there too.
Well, that's what the college owns. It's
Oh.
Twin Valleys Recreational
Oh, okay.
Outdoor Rec area. He's come there and they're fundraising for an observatory. But he's come and done a week and 2 week long sessions.
So there's my mission right there. Which is, that's the triangle, that is M33.
Okay.
That's the mission that I put on tonight for it to go look at.
You know, after it looks at it and it does it for 10 minutes and it,
Is the key
you know.
adding?
And you said you will download that?
Well, no, what I do is there's a little button right down here, and I go and I click on it, and it will capture that image. You actually have to physically do it yourself live.
Okay.
This is accumulating?
Yes, this
So
is
it gets
accumulating.
brighter and brighter. as
Right,
it
it'll get brighter and brighter. And so typically you wait for the full exposure, because the colors start to come in after about 5 minutes, and then you wait till maybe 9.5 minutes, and then you click your picture.
And then that saves it to your computer?
That, well, no, actually, it actually saves it to their website, then you can download it to your computer.
Okay.
They have a little gallery of where they put all the images that you collect,
Okay.
and then you can download them to your computer later. That's how I got that particular image. I took it one night, and then downloaded it and put it up there. Anything else?
Now, do you let the public come to your observatory certain times, or?
We do have public nights at our observatory, but typically we go out. Sometimes it's a little hard for people to find. All it is on Observatory Road. We'll go out to different schools and different libraries. In fact, tomorrow night we're going to be in Fairfield, Vermont at the Brent Northrop Library. They've asked us to come up. And another member is going to make a presentation. I'm not doing this one tomorrow night. And then we're going to be out there with our telescope. Once it's done, we'll go out and look, observe.
Do you post that on the website so that some of us could look on your website and look up your next
Yes,
event?
it's on the calendar. The next event, all the events are put on the calendar so that you can see where we might be. And for those, in the Burlington area, every Friday in May and September, we're at Dorset Park, every clear night, every clear Friday night. Because May and September are good nights to go out. We don't have to be out till late, and it's not so dark, so early, or so cold. So we go out on those 2 nights every Friday. And that again will be on our website. We're starting to sort of slow down on our outside activities now because it's getting a little cool.
But it is the best time to observe.
Of course. Of course. The skies tend to be a little steadier Bobby. Yes, sir.
There's an interesting website called spaceweather.com, and it lists near-Earth objects, NEOs, and they're trying to catalog all of the rocks that are flying around in space. And one just missed us by 200,000 miles, but it was, I think, 180 feet in diameter. That would have made a big splash.
Yeah. And they didn't see that one until it was right here.
It was close.
Yeah, it was close. One of our members does participate in that particular activity. He scans the skies for asteroids and reports in. There are a couple of members that are what we might call semi-professional. But we're mostly very amateur.
This is really great, thank you, Ron.
Oh, you're welcome.
That was great, thank you.
You're on my notes.
Got that right in the face. So trainer may need the athletic trainer here, Corey Thompson. And she's up. So Corey will put his bag down, and as the coach was not called onto the field, she can stay in the game. They're going to call it a drop ball. 3:27 on the clock.
Scored by Rustin Moira, is scored by Megan Follett. Time is 3:27 to go in the game.